In this video, we're going to check out the new web app I built, which teaches you Python real quick. It uses FastAPI and GPT. So it's really cool. So it first allows you to select your level, newbie level, intermediate, or advanced. Let's go with advanced. And then it picks topics. And then all you have to do is click on one of these topics. For example, asynchronous programming. And then it uses a WebSocket connection to stream the responses and its syntax highlights and all of that. You can actually refresh the topics to get new topics. So you don't have to think much. You don't have to type anything. You can just generate topics. If you see something you like function caching, just click on it and it will actually, give you a quick overview of that topic, like type hinting. And it also has this number. This is the max words set to GPT. This lower this is the shorter. I just kept the default at 50. So it's like really quick, right? If you're a newbie, just click on, if you're just starting out, click on Nooblet and basic input and output. And this is how it works. So this code for this web app will be available at Patreon. And if you download it, you can actually modify these promo links. For example, download this web app link. I have this modal. It actually links to my Twitter. And then you can click on download. It takes you here where you can download the code. It also links to my EcoHive website and AutoStreamer. Do check out AutoStreamer. So if you do download it, you can modify those. And at the bottom, there is a footer where you can put your own links. And this is also deployed at Railway. So we're going to actually first start with how we can deploy this. It's very easy, so it works just as well. And the WebSocket streaming is just slightly delayed from Railway, but you can actually go to this link and use it online. You can deploy it yourself. So we're going to start with the deployment, and then we're going to do a quick code overview. So let's begin. So this project consists of index.html and a static file folder, the main.py file, railway.json, and the requirements. I'll just show you how easy it is to deploy apps on Railway, whether if you built them yourself or if you download this from Patreon. Just go to Railway, set up an account, link your GitHub to this Railway account, go to your dashboard. All you have to do is just create new projects. You can see here are all my apps. This is CodeHive. This is my EcoHive website, for example. This current website is right here. It gives it random names. You can change it. This is my LLM Papers app. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on New Project, and I'm going to select FastAPI. And I'm going to select the FastAPI template. And then since I have my GitHub repo linked, it's going to automatically connect to it. I'm going to select that is private repository, and I'm going to say quick Python-2 because I already had created this. So all I have to do is now say deploy, and Railway is going to actually deploy this project and create a GitHub repository for it. I can now actually go to my GitHub and search for quick. And as you can see, quick Python 2 is created. Quick Python course is the one that I actually deployed. We can go to fastpython.app, railway.app, and visit the one that I already deployed. So I'm going to go to this one that Railway just created. As you can see, this is like a generic. It is a main.py file, railway.json file, which we're going to replace because we are going to use Uvicorn. I am providing the correct file for this. So all I have to do is just pretty much go to my repository, go to add file and upload files, and then go to my project folder, select the static folder, the main.py, railway.json, and requirements.txt, and then drag it here into the repository that Railway deployed. So now when this happens, you can actually go here and see that this is just a template. But once we upload this and commit the changes, okay, and these files are processed, you're going to see that Railway is actually redeploying. So this is just going to take a minute, like just 30 seconds or so, maybe a minute. And then this will be updated. Now, the only thing I just want to mention quickly is your origins when you're setting your core's middleware. When you're running locally, you have to input these for your post requests, which you're going to be making from the front end. But when you deploy it, you have to add it here as well. So you can actually, like I said, make the changes locally and update your GitHub repository, or you can actually go to your files, for example, main.py file, and then actually edit it straight from here and then commit the changes as well. So let's see if it is deployed. Yes. And now if you click on it, okay, it actually, after it deploys successfully, it takes about, again, another 30 seconds for it to update. So here we go. Now this is deployed. Now, the thing is that if you try to make a request, I'm pretty sure we will fail. See, refused. So we get some. So we did get some errors, and when we look at our deploy logs, we can go to our deployment, and right here view logs and go to deploy logs. We see that we haven't set our OpenAI API key. And another important thing is that we also need to set our origin URL correctly. If we go back to Railway, we can see that this is our URL. We can actually go to settings and scroll down and see our public networking. If you have a custom domain name, you can link it. But this is the URL we need to add to our origins, and I'll just show you how I would do it. For example, in GitHub, you just go ahead and edit your main.py file, come here and replace the part after HTTPS with your actual URL that you're going to be using online, right? The rest of the URLs are for when you're using it locally. These are for the fetch requests and WebSocket requests, right? And here, when we committed our changes to our repository, as you can see, Railway is redeploying our project. I'll just talk here real quick about the variables. So you need to set here, okay? Go to variables and set an OpenAI API key variable and paste your key here and then add this. And this way, Railway will be able to access this because this is where we're initializing our API key, right? We are either reading it from our environment variables or you can insert it here in the script. But just as on our computer, it reads it from the environment variable, it is able to read it from the environment variable here, where you set at the variables. Like I said, go to a new variable, set your OpenAI API key here and the value here. Now we have redeployed it. This is going to give us a error. But if I go back to my other deployed project, you can see that I've set my OpenAI API key, and I have put the fastpython.app Railway to its origins. I'll show you real quick. I'm just going to go to my GitHub repo where I deployed. If I go to main.py file, you can see that it is set over here like this. So I can go to the one that I deployed, and I see that this is working just like this. Another cool thing about deploying to Railway is that you get metrics. For example, this is the metrics in the last 1 hour. I just published it and posted on Twitter. You get 6-hour metrics and 1-day metrics. So this is when I was building it. So as you can see, it's very cool. You actually get to see if people are using your app without like setting complex Google Analytics or anything. You at least get some kind of an idea. Okay, so enough of that. Let's quickly overview the code. And I actually have a detailed code review for patrons. If you are interested in that, you can actually find it here. You can actually play the first 2 minutes of it, see if you like it. But this is available at my Patreon as well for patrons. So I'd like to talk about, I'd like to do a quick overview. We are using FastAPI, we are using WebSockets, and we are using Pydantic validation for user input. This is very important. If we take a look at our index.html, which is under static folder, we see that we are using Prism. We are using the CDM for Prism and also for Tailwind. I've chosen the Atom Dark for highlighting the code. At first, we see the promo links. If you do download the code, you can actually change these to point to your promo links. Like the first one is the download link. The second one is to my website, and the third one is to AutoStream. Next up is just a title, right? And first buttons, the Nubla, Trendy, and Elite. These are the levels. And an input box. So this input box that you see here, if you hover over it, is the amount that you specify the GPT as far as like max words. So the higher this is, the more verbose responses you'll get. Like if you say 250 and click on data types, you're going to end up getting a larger response. And if you lower it like to 10, then you're going to get much shorter responses. So you can adjust that. See, there we go. And we have a spinner, which is its style is set to none. That is this spinner that we see happening when we do this. Yeah, and then we have a topics div to put the topics and the refresh button to refresh. But so we actually have the footer right here and then the modal right here. You can modify the modal with your own links and whatnot. The footer is displayed right here. For example, I can go to my Twitter, just like this. You can replace this, or to my GitHub, you can replace these with your links. This is a sticky footer, as you can see. It sticks to the bottom. Then we have our JavaScript. Now, the important parts here in the JavaScript is that when we are creating the buttons, we are assigning event listeners and assigning buttons for when you're... So when we are creating the buttons, we add an event listener for each of the buttons and then determine what's going to happen here. For example, when we are assigning some of the styling and whatnot to the level buttons, the ones that we see at first, this Nublet, Trendy, and Elite. When those are clicked, we can see that we call this fetch and display topics function. Right here, fetch and display topics function actually does a fetch request to get topics endpoint, which is in our main.py file backend, which actually gets the button data's identic formatted object and then uses its values to make a call to GPT and actually with JSON response and then returns it. So when we receive it here, okay, then we actually initialize the refresh button because now we have topics and then we call the create topic buttons data, which is here. This function actually dynamically creates the topics button and adds it to the page. And then, so because we don't know what the topics are going to be, right? And so therefore we can actually create it dynamically here with colors, with assigned colors right here. So as you can see, these have nice colors, but when we create topics, they will each have red, orange, yellow, green, and blue, and they will actually pulsate like this. So that's nice. A refresh topic will do the same. That's a Tailwind property. But when we're adding the buttons, we are adding an event listener for click to, and then we say what's going to happen when this is clicked. We get the number of words from that element, right? Because we're going to send it through WebSockets. So the first one, fetch and display topics, works through regular API endpoint and create topics buttons. These work with the WebSocket. We have an explanation div, which is empty in our HTML, as you can see, explanation. And these topics are going to make a WebSocket call to the backend and then get some GPT response and then populate the explanation paragraph. So, and then we add some styling and whatnot. But this is the important part. When we are creating the topics, we add a click event listener, which is going to make a call to the WebSocket with the topic, previous topics, and number of words. Okay. And what happens then is we initialize our WebSocket, and this is a really cool way to initialize your WebSockets. It automatically picks up the URL from WS protocol and whether it's secure or not. Whatever, for example, when you deploy it to Railway, this automatically takes care of it, and Windows location.host also takes care of the address. So then we have a WebSocket URL. We define a socket, and then we have this function, which is going to define this function, which is going to call itself right here with a 1 second delay, just in case if the WebSocket closes, it will try to open it, and we print an error, and then we call this function. This will initialize our WebSocket. So now what happens, the important thing is that we are going to receive these tokens, but the tokens are going to come in like one by one, okay? And you're going to need some way of keeping track of it, because if you look at the code that, like, let's see, we received this code, right? This is about type hinting, and Python is a way. So these are going to be received token by token, and we're going to have regular text, and then we're going to have code blocks. And this code blocks are going to begin with triple backtick Python and then with triple backtick. But the thing is that triple backtick Python consists of two tokens. So to be able to detect it, we need a buffer to keep track of the last few tokens. And then we have code buffer to store the code block content if you're in one. And then we have a flag to indicate whether if you're inside a code block or not. And this message counter is just something I thought about for scrolling. I'll talk about that later. So when we receive a message, we get the token. Okay, this is for scrolling. I'm not actually using this, but I'll leave it there anyway. And then we add that to buffer, and then we only keep the buffer for up to 3 tokens, and then we shift that buffer. Actually, if I turn on this console.log and go back to the Python tutor and open this up real quick and select one of the levels and select on the generator, we should see the buffer being printed. As you can see, at all times we have 3, and it continually shifts, so that this is going to allow us to detect right here somewhere this triple backticks in Python, because we're going to join it. So let's go back to the code. We join it, and then after we join the buffer, we check if it has triple backticks Python. Then we print code block detected, which probably printed somewhere here. I see code block detected right after it. And then so after that, we set at that time, we empty the buffer and say inside code block set to true. Then we create the elements for the code block, and then we continually check When the buffer.join includes only a triple backtick and we are inside a code block, then we're done. We say end of code block detected. If we go back to our console.log somewhere here, yeah, when we see the triple backticks, we say end of code block. That's good. So, and then we say presume the highlight element. So now we've kind of handled most of the stuff. But then we say if we are inside of a code block, then this code block which we have initialized, we're going to keep appending to its inner HTML the necessary code element with each code. So it's going to get nicely highlighted, as you see here, with the kind of styling and whatnot you like. But otherwise we're not inside of a code block. So we're just going to add it to explanation paragraph, token by token. And this is where we use the message counter. So I thought this was my thinking. Let's say let's just zoom in and refresh, and then let's go to trendy. And then if we say let's zoom in even more, context manager. So see how it scrolled, but it didn't scroll all the way. I thought let's say if you were to get a large response with 350, I thought it wouldn't make sense to scroll all the way to the bottom because this is not chat, right? This is just an answer. I mean, you do want to kind of scroll to indicate that something has arrived, but you want to read through it and scroll through it slowly. That's why I thought, okay, we don't want to scroll all the way. That's why I was scrolling 5 pixels up to 50 tokens that are arriving. That's about it. And here at the bottom, we are not really using these. I can actually delete this. But this one actually makes the modal pop out, the code download button. This is for the modal. When we click this, that's what pops this out. Other than that, all the links are here, right? The footer links, if you want to change it to your own links. And also right here is the modal, if you want to change its contents and put your own links here. And this is the link to when you, for this download button. You can change all of that. It's really up to you. I hope you enjoy this. Okay. I actually, like I said, have this exclusive video. I will actually put a part of this to the end of this video. See if you like it. If you do, you can find it at Patreon. Okay. And also you can find the code files as well. Thank you for watching. So the rest of the video is going to be part of this exclusive video code review. And I hope to build many more projects this year to try. Hopefully I will be more productive, and I'll see you in the next video. We have a get explanation function. It's an async function, which also takes in the button data class, which we have defined up here. Okay, they both use the button class, as you can see here. And this one returns the explanation. Sorry, right here. Yeah. This one returns the explanation, which we see, but we are actually yielding. That's why it's an async function. We are yielding here. And this WebSocket actually gets the responses and actually sends it with the WebSocket to the front end. So this is pretty much it. And we run it with Unicorn. It's actually pretty straightforward. And in the front end, we are making a fetch request to get topics with the current level, previous topics. And we are also using the WebSockets to send the topic, previous topics, and number of words. Now, before we begin a more in-depth review, let's take a look at our web page again. And I'm going to click Ctrl-Shift-I to bring developer tools. And I'm going to click here to inspect elements. So now if I, for example, inspect Nublet, I can see that it has a name right here, Nublet. Maybe we can zoom in a little bit. Nublet. So this is actually what we are sending to our backend. See, the current level is picked from the button.text content. So whatever the text content of that button is, we are actually sending that both with the fetch request, and we do something similar with the topics. So the point here being that when we click this Nublet, whatever is written on it is sent to the backend. We can actually see it happen right here. Let me close this. I'm just going to refresh here. Pay attention to our terminal. I'm going to click on Nublet, and as you see, the data is text Nublet. We don't have any previous topics yet, and number of words 50. So this is what we are sending. But if I bring up developer tools, okay, and inspect that element and change this element to like omelette recipes, for example. So somebody can do this, right? And now I can actually send this. And as you can see, our backend is instead actually receiving omelette recipes. It's still returning proper categories thanks to GPT understanding the situation. But So we don't want something like this. So this is usually called sanitizing user input. You have to be very careful with what the user enters to your website that goes to your backend. So that's an important consideration. So how can we actually handle this? So one way to handle it is, because we have created a Pydantic class, we can actually set restrictions over here. I'm actually quickly going to switch to Visual Studio Code and I'll show you what I mean. So let's select this, and I'm going to use Control-I, the Copilot inline chat, and I'm going to say, let me actually go back, actually here, let me open the index right here. Here we have a list, although we need to make these uppercase, but we can handle that because it's actually reading directly from the button, and the button has these words uppercase in the first letter. So I'm going to say here, we want to restrict text to one of only these options. I just pasted that here with capital first letters. If you were to just you would just run it like this. Let's see, okay, it is using NO. That's good. Actually, that is what we wanted to use. Okay, so that's good. I can go ahead and accept this. So this should work now. What happened is that we defined another class with enumeration, meaning this text options can only be one of these three. And when we are defining text, we say that it can want to be one of the text option classes options. Back before, it was just a string. Okay, it had really no restrictions on it. So now let's test if this works. Great. Let's go back to our cursor and get this on the side. So once we update this, our server will update, but I just saved it anyway. So now if we try to run it with omelette recipes, let's see what happens. See, we get unprocessable entity. If we try trendy, that one works. Okay. And if we try elite, that works. But omelette recipes doesn't work. Okay. So we were able to kind of handle for that. So just keep that in mind. That's very important. You want to know what you're receiving in the backend. So how can we restrict, for example, how can we restrict the topic? See, if we click on meta class, it says input value meta class. Okay, so when we click on decorators, we see that button click with decorators. Let me zoom in. Button, there is decorators, and we also see the entire data structure here. Okay, so I just actually added a new topic under the button data class. So text options deal with these previous first buttons, and topic deals with that. So what we can do for this case is that you can actually restrict it to, let's count how many letters is this.